Welcome back to the deep dive. We are jumping straight into something quite surprising today, a real behavioral mystery. Why do intelligent, completely independent older adults sometimes just seem to, well, forget to eat? We kicked off our research digging into the story of a woman named Mrs. L. Sharplady, retired English teacher, lived alone, handled her own money, very protective of her independence, her routines. But her daughter started noticing something worrying. Mrs. L was losing weight.
Yeah, and the food in the fridge, pretty much untouched.
Exactly. She just seemed to be running on empty. But if you asked her, she'd say, no, I'm not hungry.
And that's where the alarm bells usually go off for families.
Wait, totally. The daughter immediately thought maybe depression.
And the doctor suspected maybe early memory loss, which, are definitely possibilities.
Of course.
But what the source material we looked at suggests is, hang on, let's first look at something maybe simpler. Let's look for the missing cues in her environment.
Ah, okay. And that's really the heart of what we found, isn't it? We tend to jump to conclusions like, serious cognitive decline when someone skips meals or maybe forgets to shower.
Right.
But this behavioral analysis perspective shows these subtle signs, this kind of breakdown in routine can actually show up before any major cognitive issues really take hold.
Exactly. It's like an early warning signal. Maybe the system supporting the behavior is failing, not necessarily the person themselves.
That's a really important distinction.
So our goal today really is to use the science of applied behavior analysis, ABA, to sort of map out these behavioral signals. We want to show you how sometimes just reorganizing the environment, making small tweaks, can be the quickest way and maybe the most dignified way to get those routines back on track.
Restoring independence, dignity. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So when an older adult starts skipping meals regularly, our first thought often goes internal, doesn't it? Are they depressed? Are they sick? Do they even remember what time it is?
Sure, those are the natural questions.
But the behavioral science view encourages us to look outwards first. Often the real issue is a breakdown in that fundamental loop that governs, well, pretty much every habit we have.
And if we don't get what that loop is, we can't fix it when it breaks. So what are the parts? How does it fail for an older person?
Okay, so we call it the ABC framework. Super fundamental in ABA, antecedent, behavior, and consequence.
ABC, got it.
For a habit to happen, you need all three. In older adults, often the first thing to wobble is the antecedent. That's the A.
The antecedent, like the trigger, the reminder.
Exactly, the cue that kicks off the behavior.
But what does a missing cue actually look like? I mean, for someone who's made their own lunch perfectly fine for 50 years.
Well, think about the rhythm people build up over a lifetime. Maybe they always ate lunch right when the noon news jingle played on TV. Every day, like clockwork.
Okay, I can picture that.
Now, maybe they stream shows on a tablet with headphones.
Yeah.
Or the local news station changed its schedule, its theme tune, that specific, reliable sound cue. It's just gone. Ah, so the trigger vanished.
Right. And without that antecedent, the behavior often doesn't happen.
The behavior being actually making and eating the food.
Preparing it, sitting down, chewing, swallowing, the whole sequence. If the trigger isn't pulled, the action gets skipped.
And the C.
Or the consequence.
That's the outcome. Usually feeling full, satisfied. That can also start to fade or become less obvious, especially if maybe their activity level has dropped so they don't build up that strong hunger signal. The internal cue weakens too.
That's wow. So you lose the trigger, you lose the routine. It makes so much sense when you put it that way. The research highlighted this line I really liked. Aging doesn't erase motivation. It interrupts the patterns that once supported it.
That's it. Precisely.
It's not that the person stopped wanting to eat or be healthy. It's that the structure, the environmental scaffolding that made sure they ate, has kind of silently crumbled away.
Exactly. And shifting our perspective to that is crucial because it tells us what warning signs really matter. It's not just about memory tests.
So we need to look beyond just, mom lost 5 pounds. We need to see the behavioral signals. What should family members really be watching for?
Look for signs of what we call executive dysfunction, specifically related to food and meals. Like, is the fridge packed with food, but there are never any actual prepared meals? Or leftovers?
Okay. Good food is there, but it's not getting used.
Right. Or are meal times getting missed even though there's a clock right there? Also, look at the kitchen itself. How organized is it? Are grocery lists maybe half finished, or are simple things like plates or forks suddenly hard to find or seem difficult to get out?
That's a really powerful point. We forget that making even a simple sandwich is actually a complex task. It needs planning, doing things in the right order, organizing items. When those background skills falter, the whole thing can just stop.
That's exactly it. It's often the process that's breaking down, not just the memory of being hungry.
So if we see it that way through this behavioral lens, the solution isn't about nagging or trying to enforce eating times.
No, not at all. It's about subtle, smart, science-based redesign of the environment.
Okay, so let's talk about applied behavior analysis, ABA. Most people, when they hear ABA, they think, okay, autism therapy, maybe early childhood stuff.
That's a common association, yeah.
But the sources we read were really clear. ABA is broader. It's a science of behavior and environment, and it applies across the lifespan.
Mm.
How do we actually use it to help older adults without it feeling, I don't know, clinical or intrusive?
That's the beauty of it, I think. ABA is incredibly practical. It offers a toolkit to rebuild that structure and safety. We often start with something called task analysis.
Task analysis, breaking a big job down into smaller, manageable steps.
Exactly. If the whole idea of making dinner feels overwhelming, we break it down. Step 1, go to the fridge. Step 2, take out the pre-made salad. Step 3, get a fork. If a task has too many steps or seems too complex, people often just avoid starting it, so we simplify.
Makes sense. Identify the steps, then what?
Then we use prompting, which is really just giving the right nudge at the right moment. This could be visual, like a simple shirt on the fridge listing meals for the day, or auditory, a phone alarm, or even using something like an Alexa or Google Home for spoken reminders.
Okay, but I can anticipate some pushback here. For someone like Mrs. L, fiercely independent her whole life, isn't putting a big whiteboard on her fridge or setting alarms constantly feel a bit patronizing, like you're taking away her control? How does ABA handle that sensitivity?
That's absolutely critical. Preserving dignity and autonomy is always the top priority. The goal isn't to micromanage, it's to maximize their independence. And this is where environmental engineering comes in, and it's often the least intrusive approach.
Environmental engineering,
Yeah.
changing the surrounding.
Exactly. Instead of constantly telling someone what to do, you modify the environment so the desired behavior becomes the easiest, most obvious choice.
How so? Give me an example.
Okay, simple things. Make healthy, easy-to-eat food highly visible and super accessible. If they struggle with opening containers or remembering what's in the back of the fridge, don't hide the yogurt back there. Put single-serving yogurts right at the front. Keep a bowl of fruit or some cheese sticks right there on the counter, maybe already portioned out.
So an open container or food in plain sight acts as its own cue.
Precisely. It is the antecedent designed right into the environment. It removes steps like searching, opening, deciding, preparing. You just grab and eat.
You're making the environment do the prompting
Yeah.
passively. I love that idea from the source material. The environment is the taskmaster. We just have to teach it what to say.
It's elegant, really. You engineer the surroundings to make success more likely, almost inevitable.
Okay, let's bring it back to Mrs. L.
Mm-hmm.
How did this play out for her? Her daughter worked with a behavior analyst, right?
Yes, and crucially, she didn't implement some complex invasive monitoring system. She made small, targeted changes based on these ABA principles.
Focused on the antecedents, the triggers.
Exactly. She looked at the task analysis for eating lunch and put 3 key things in place. First, the visual cue. A whiteboard on the fridge, clearly listing the planned meals for each day.
Simple enough. Replace the old TV jingle cue, maybe?
Could be. Second, environmental engineering. She made sure ready-to-eat snacks, things like cheese sticks, fruit cups, were always out in plain sight on the kitchen counter. Easy to see, easy to grab.
Remove the preparation barrier?
Right. And third, auditory prompting. She used technology. Set up an Alexa device to announce clearly, "It's time for lunch, Mom," every day at noon.
And the result?
Quite remarkable, apparently. Mrs. L started eating regularly again within about a week.
Wow.
And the key takeaway, again, isn't that her memory magically got better overnight. It's that her environment was subtly restructured to support the independent behavior she was still capable of.
The structure made the difference.
Structure restored function almost immediately. And seeing that kind of quick success often brings up another big question for families.
It is.
If we see someone stopping eating like this, does it automatically mean it's dementia setting in? Is it always a sign of serious cognitive decline?
That's the elephant in the room, isn't it? What does the evidence say?
It says, not always. Definitely not always. While cognitive changes certainly can contribute and increase the risk of these routines breaking down,
Sure.
often skipping meals can be traced directly back to those specific things we've been talking about. Those missing environmental cues, maybe a dip in the executive function needed to plan and sequence a meal, or sometimes just sheer physical or even emotional fatigue.
So it could be any number of things.
Yes. And the real strength of using an ABA approach is that it helps you pinpoint the specific reason, the why behind the change for that individual, which means the intervention can be targeted and much more likely to work.
And the implications for caregivers must be huge. They're often under so much stress.
Immense stress,
This
yes.
approach seems like it could shift things from constant worry and micromanagement to something more proactive.
It really can. It helps restore a sense of self-reliance for the older person, which is intrinsically valuable, and it simultaneously reduces that day-to-day burden and anxiety for the caregiver. It's a win-win.
Turning crisis management into proactive, supportive design.
Well put.
So, okay, for someone listening right now, maybe noticing some of these subtle shifts in a parent or a loved one, what's the first step? What can they actually do?
The absolute first step is start with data, not assumptions. Before you jump in and change anything, just observe and track what's actually happening.
Data collection. What specifically should they note down?
Keep it simple. Three main things. First, frequency. How often are meals actually being skipped? Keep a simple log for a few days. Second, the environment. Take an objective look. Is food visible? Is it easy to access? Are the tools needed out and ready? And third, try to spot behavioral triggers. What happens right before a meal is skipped? What happens right before a meal is successfully eaten? Are there patterns?
That documentation sounds like the key to finding that broken link in the ABC chain we talked about.
It absolutely is. Now, the source materials do recommend consulting a professional, a board-certified behavior analyst, or BCBA, ideally one with experience in gerontology, for a formal assessment.
Okay, but realistically, those specialists can be hard to find sometimes, or there might be waiting lists.
That's true. And that's why the good news is that these initial steps, the observation, the data collection, even some basic environmental tweaks like putting snacks out, these are things a family member can start doing right now. It's often the best immediate response while figuring out next steps.
Okay, that's very practical advice. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. This whole conversation fundamentally shifts how we think about independence and aging, doesn't it?
I think so.
It suggests independence doesn't just vanish overnight with a certain birthday. Sometimes it just needs a bit of, well, scientific scaffolding to keep functioning well.
That's a great way to put it. When seniors seem to forget to eat, maybe it's less about forgetting and more about losing the rhythm, the environmental rhythm that supported that behavior for decades.
And ABA gives us the tools to help rebuild that rhythm.
One cue, one behavior, one small success at a time, restoring function, and just as importantly, restoring dignity.
It really comes back to creating surroundings that almost demand success, or at least make it much easier.
Absolutely. And that leads to a final thought, building on that idea from the source material about making success inevitable through environmental design. We know this works for core tasks like eating, like showering. So the question for you, the listener, is this. If you think about a loved one, or even your own routines as you age, what are maybe three other daily activities? Could be taking medication on time, could be engaging in a hobby they used to love, maybe even just getting dressed in the morning that could potentially be restored or made easier simply by redesigning the immediate physical environment. What simple cue could you put in place today to prompt a more successful tomorrow?